Well, generally there is a bit of a tendency for exotic-looking unconventional knife designs to be somewhat gimmicky and not overly practical, but this here is definitely an exception. This is the Talon knife, which is designed in the USA, made in China, and distributed from Canada through Talon Tactical Inc. What is striking about this design, as you see immediately, is this oddly shaped handle, and the idea behind that is that you're able to slip it over your fingers and use the knife while still being able to grasp something with your hand. It doesn't impair the functioning of your hand, and you can even, if you want to, hold another knife in addition to it. Also, because of the way you're wearing it, it's very difficult to lose this. You would almost have to be trying deliberately to do so. And it also doesn't really slip because of that. And well, if you have clicked on this video just to see an unusual knife, and if you don't have the patience for the full in-depth review, if you just want the short version, well, the short version is, if you're wondering, should I get this? Is it a good knife? Yes and yes. That's the short answer. It is high quality. It is worth the money. Yeah, go get it, basically. That's the short version. But before you go, check this out.
The Devil Horns of Metal.
Okay, so now that I've taken care of the impatient, let's move on to the actual review. First of all, why do I have two? Well, originally I got this one right here, which it comes with paracord in different colors, so I just rewrapped it in green because I think that looks neat. And this here is a bit of a dud in terms of the edge. It turned out that it came pretty dull. It doesn't have a good edge, and because I got this specifically for the review, and I actually contacted Rod at Talon Knives and told him about that and said, here, the thing is actually too dull to even cut paper. In fact, let me show you. It doesn't cut it at all, it just rips it. And I told him that, and also I told him that I even tried to resharpen it, but it's pretty difficult because the steel is hard. And so what he did was he sent me another one for free, which is pretty damn awesome. And this one, as you'll see, this is properly sharp. In fact, this one also cuts phone book paper pretty easily. So this is properly sharp. So in other words, if you buy one of these and the one that you receive has a dull edge, don't automatically assume that all come like that. This may very well be one that slipped through the cracks. Sometimes manure happens in the production process, and so it may be that that particular one is just flawed, and then you may contact them and they might fix it for you. So just that as a heads up. And let's talk about the material. The steel used is German steel. It's 1.4116, also known as X45 CRMOV15. Yeah, long ass name for sure. And it is tempered to a Rockwell hardness of 59 to 60. And while talking about the steel, there's something that I would like to address that I heard Cutlery Lover say in his review video, namely that he thinks that the edge retention is not all that good. And that surprised me, and I think it needs to be corrected because, like I said, the hardness is 59 to 60. And actually, that is pretty hard. If you look at something like D2 high carbon steel, which is generally considered to be very tough tool steel, and I checked it on the blade forums, people generally seem to agree that 60 to 62 is ideal for that kind of steel. So this here is 59 to 60, that is pretty close. So that is actually on the hard side. I originally planned to include test footage, but then I realized a problem with that. Namely that for a test to be really reliable and useful, not only does it have to be consistent, it also needs to have some kind of universal verifiable standard for evaluating something. And I don't have any such standard. Like, for instance, if I cut cardboard with it and test the edge before and after, well, how many pieces of cardboard does it take? How large, how thick, how many cuts to reach a conclusion, you know? So I'd have to leave such testing to someone who can come up with a more scientific setup with actually standardized methods for measuring sharpness and edge retention and everything. I generally try to be as objective as possible, which of course there are limits. You know, being human, we are inherently subjective beings, but I try my best to cover it as objectively as possible. What you can say about it objectively is the tempering. And like I already said, the tempering is pretty hard, so the edge retention should be good. So how well does it handle? Pretty damn well, actually. It is actually customized to your hand size. When you order one of these, you have to measure the circumference of your index and middle finger so that it is fitted to your personal hand size. So in other words, if you want to use it with a glove, you of course have to measure it with a glove on. And well, it's pretty neat to have the option to manipulate something else. You know, I can even use a mouse with it at the computer, or, you know, you can come up with some crazy stuff, especially if you have two of them. Like I already showed, the metal horns of doom. That is pretty neat. Not only does it look awesome, it's really fun to play around with. And, well, if you want to use this for self-defense, you could definitely come up with creative ways of using that. You could also, if you wanted to, use two at the same time. In fact, this actually makes them even more comfortable, because then you have more to hold on to, and you would get a pretty nasty double cut out of that. But, you know, of course, this is mainly just fooling around with it. But, well, fooling around with something can be a lot of fun too. And you have a variety of different ways of holding it. You can either slip the fingers through like that, you can hold it like this, you can hold it this way, you can hold it in such a way if you want to do a nice draw cut like that. This here is a pretty useful feature. It has this protruding piece right there where you can actually put your ring finger on, and what that does is it prevents it from just rotating and torquing too much, and that is a very useful feature. And also, if you want to, you can actually use this as an impact tool. If you put it in the sheath and use it like this, put your hand on there, and you can definitely do some damage with that, but it would be less lethal, of course. Self-defense is one of the main purposes of this. You know, you can use it for EDC knife, but you can also use it for self-defense. So the obvious advantage is that this is pretty difficult to wrestle out of your hand, to disarm you with. You won't drop it easily. So it's a pretty smart design, for sure. And if you want to, you can also hold it like this, more like a more conventional knife, if you will. That works too. Let's see what it comes with. You have two zip ties to attach the Kydex sheath to whatever you want. You have a lot of attachment options here, several different holes. You have a slot in there. It comes with this ball chain here. And then you also get spare paracord. This is actually gutted paracord. Comes in different colors. And it's very easy to exchange it if you want to. Then you also get this clip right here, which you can clip to your clothing like that. What about the retention in the sheath? It's very well fitted Kydex, of course. This just won't go anywhere. You have to give it a pretty firm tug actually to get it out. So this holds it in very securely. So generally I try my best to find both pros and cons, but I'm really struggling with this one because, well, you can come up with things like, well, it's a short blade, you don't get that much cutting edge, but it's a neck knife. It's meant to be short and compact and everything. So when taking the design into account, that's a drawback of a neck knife in general, of a compact neck knife, let's put it like that. There's one thing that I could complain about. Haha. They make this a pink version? Ugh. Horrible. Yeah, that is my main complaint. Yeah, otherwise, I really don't know what to criticize here, really. If you look at the jimping, it's fairly aggressive jimping, but it's not overdone. It's not uncomfortable. I mean, maybe for some people it would be a bit too much, I don't know. I think my only real criticism would be that this is a bit difficult to sharpen, simply because of the angle here and because of the way you're normally holding it. It's not necessarily quite as easy to sharpen as it is with a more conventional design. Also because it has the hawkbill blade, which doesn't make it too easy either. And again, it's pretty hard, so it takes a bit longer to sharpen. But then again, because it has good edge retention, you won't have to do it that often. So yeah, that's a minor nitpick, I suppose. Otherwise, I'm really happy with this, I have to say. There's really nothing wrong with it in particular. Like I already showed you, you can do all kinds of crazy things with this that you couldn't otherwise. I mean, I can, if I want to be really crazy here, I can do this. Which, yeah, now we're really starting to get ridiculous. I know. But that just shows how unique and well thought out this thing is. This is not exactly something that you could do with another knife. How important is that to you? Well, you have to decide that for yourself. Personally, I like that quite a bit. It's really neat to have something like that. And one particular thing that I also would like to mention is it is very nice to have this blade shape with the point, because should it end up getting dull and in that situation for some reason you don't have a way to sharpen it, you can actually use just the tip to cut with. Of course, it won't be a very clean cut, but you can do it. And that is quite useful. So finally, what about the price? You can order it for $57 at Talon Tactical's website. And I've also seen for $55 at... the name escapes me, but again, links will be in the video description as usual, along with all the other specs. So the question is, are you willing to spend around $60 on a neck knife? Is it worth it? Yes, totally is. The quality that you're getting for it, in my opinion, is definitely worth it. And I don't think you would regret spending that money on it. But ultimately, that's up to you, of course. This is just my impression. Again, like I said, I try to make it as objective as possible, but in the end, it is always personal opinion. So I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.